back to That Dad Guy. It's August the 12th, 2023, and as you can see, I'm not at home. If you look behind me, there are campers. If you look behind that, there's actually a lake, and it's the father-son fishing trip, so we are away. And it's a beautiful early morning. Everybody's still sleeping, but you know how I tend to get up early with my job. Well, when it comes to the weekends, I'm still up early, so I figured I'd take this chance to answer the questions that you sent in. It's Saturday, so let's answer a few questions. And if you're unfamiliar to how this works, every Saturday I do a video, and in the comments you can leave me a question, and then the following Saturday I'll respond to it. Now, once a month, the first Saturday of each month, I ask a question of you, and then you get a chance to respond. The question for the month of August is, what is your favorite recipe? So if you want to participate, go ahead and leave your favorite recipe on a postage card. However you want to do that, whether you want to write it out, whether the postage card will have that information on the front, or if you want to fold a piece of paper up and tape it on somehow that has that recipe, you can do that as well. And my address is in the description of the video. Now, last month though, the question was, what was your favorite treat? And so last week was the first Saturday, so I answered those, but sometimes cards come in a little late and I don't want to miss out on any. So let's go to those cards next. This postage card showed up from Ambre in France, and she said her favorite sweet summer treat is ice cream, but especially the sorbet, homemade with apricots. And the must-do is the vine peach. Now, I've never heard of vine peaches. I reached out to her. She told me a bit about them. Very small, sweet. Make sure you Google it. I don't think the pictures that I found will do it justice, but I'm very curious about, have you ever had a vine peach before? I haven't, so I'm going to try to look for them somewhere and see if I can get a taste. But that sounds really good. Oh, and on this side, there's the stamp on the postcard, the peace stamp that comes from France. All right, the other card that I had come in was this card, and this comes from Jane in South Carolina in the United States. And she says one of her favorite summertime treats is homemade peach cobbler. Oh, that sounds good. Georgia brags about being the peach state, but South Carolina actually produces more peaches outside of California. The water tower on this card always makes people driving along the nearby interstate do a double take. You really do have to see it for yourself. It makes me laugh and smile. So there you go. The South Carolina peach and peach cobbler would be fantastic. Yeah. Let's get into some of the questions. Now that we've got those ones, questions that you had for me, I've written them out. Normally I have the computer screen to go ahead and look at to see what the questions were, but I've gone ahead of time, looked them all up, written them down, and we'll go from here. So the first question I have is from Wendy here in Canada. She says, have you ever had any horse riding experience? We have a place on the way to Hillsborough that when I was younger, I've done some horseback riding. Now, I just mean family trips. We go down to the stables, we take out the horse, we go for an hour, we trot around a pre-done trail that the horses go on. And that's about my only horse riding experience. I didn't do camps. I wasn't doing equestrian things like that. So it was just family trips down doing some horse riding lessons every once in a while. And I mean, maybe 3 or 4 times in my life. That's it. That's all my horse riding experience. So nothing too huge. All right. The next question I have comes from Amber in Missouri in the United States, and she says, what is your favorite summertime treat? So usually I do ask a monthly question, like I said, and I get that question thrown right back at me at some point in time. So yeah, I'll answer it. My favorite summertime treat is probably strawberry shortcake. So when the strawberries are perfect here and they come out, you get a little sponge cake that goes with it. You get cut up strawberries, you put some whipped cream, put that in a bowl, and it is a nice summertime treat. And then she has a follow-up question to that. She says, are you going to make some of the treat responses sent in? So yeah, there's a couple ones that I do want to try. and certainly looking forward to the recipe ones too. So I will try to do a couple of them. Whether it's going to be, as she says, cooking with that dad guy, I'm not sure, but I will try out a few and see. Now, if they're relatively easy, maybe I will do a video about it and show you the finished result. So no promises on that, but could be something I could do. So thank you, Amber. The next question I have comes from Mail Art Lover in Chile, and she says, international stamps. They don't have them in Chile, so does that mean that you can't use a regular stamp to send internationally? So no, when we talk about international stamps in the United States, they have a forever stamp. In Canada, we have an international stamp. It means that the value of the stamp is $2.71. That's how much it costs to send us a postcard or an envelope internationally. So you can just use one of those stamps and that will cover the cost of sending them internationally. Or you can use the $1.30 stamp and send it to the United States. The domestic rate is 92 cents. So if you want to send regular stamps, as you call the domestic rate stamps, then it would just take 3 of those domestic stamps in order to send a parcel internationally. Or you can use just older stamps. As long as it adds up to the value of $2.71, it doesn't really matter. So sometimes people just find it easier to buy a $2.71 stamp and put it on the envelope to send it. Otherwise, you're putting a whole bunch of stamps in order to add up to it. So that's what it means. All right, thanks, Mail Art Lover. The next question I have, it comes from MIKLIA1. So Michaelia1, they say, when I looked up post-crossing groups, they seem to be geared for swaps. Is my feeling wrong about that? I would say no. I think most people that are in a post-crossing group, whether a Facebook group or something like that, are looking to exchange with someone. So it may be a specific type of card that they have. They put an image up, say, if you're interested in this, we want to swap, and then they might be looking for a certain style. So there are some people that are collecting, flags of the world or Tausendschein or something like that, postcards. So they're looking to swap, complete their collection somehow. So there are people like that. There are other people that are just looking for pen pals and are looking for a generalized swap. So you do that. You see, what kind of groups do you recommend? So for me, I would recommend a post-crossing group that is from your country or a country that you're interested in swapping with. I tend to be in post-crossing Canada type groups because I want to know what people are having, their experiences are like. Sometimes it's just nice to exchange with someone in your country because you're going to have a faster swap. That's what I did earlier on. Now I have a pretty good grouping of people that I swap with regularly, and the amount of postcards that I can send through post-crossing. So I'm less active in those groups now. He says he wants to hear more about the people's experience and issues faced in the hobby. So that's more of a forum type thing. Yes, you probably will get some fit in groups, but if you go into forums, you can Google certain experiences. You can just read what people are talking about, the latest gossip, what's going on. Like right now, World Post-Crossing Day card is out. There is some controversy about it, about whether the art itself is original or if it's not original and it's just taken from stock images off the internet. Is that still acceptable in creating a card? So let you be the judge about that, but that's what some of the debates are about. So if you want to hear those type of stories, the post-crossing forums on the post-crossing site probably are the best way to go. All right, my next question comes from Zach in Illinois in the United States. And he says, what is the latest a postcard has arrived to you and from you? And if you can't register it, what do you do? So I don't know exactly the longest one that's arrived to me, probably about 250 days, somewhere in that range. And if I can't register it, and same with cards that are going to someone else, I'm not quite sure. I have some that have been traveling for over a year. Whether they'll ever reach their destination, I don't know. But there does get to a point where you can't register it. So what would I do in that situation? I probably would still reach out to the person if I can and let them know that their card has arrived, first of all. I also might contact the post-crossing group directly, give them the ID, let them know that the card has finally arrived, and maybe there's something that we'll do. Now, it doesn't open up any other slots to the person that sent it, whether you register it or not, at that point in time, because the slot has already been opened up after the card has expired. So it's just nice to let the person know that the card's finally arrived. So I sent them a message. So thank you, Zach. The next question, or a group of questions, actually comes from user NP3P21CS4C. They say, can you help with Canadian stamp meaning? So he recently bought a booklet of sunflower stamps. Those were the ones that helped Ukraine, and they have a P+10 on them. Then he bought some just regular stamps that have a P on them. And then he says, are all the stamps the same value? For example, he bought, well, we'll start there. Are all they the same value? Okay, so a P stamp means that you can mail that domestic rate stamp at any time. So even if the postage goes up, so we're currently at 92 cents, if they decide to change the postage and make it $1 to send a postage stamp locally, you can still use that P stamp that you bought in the past and not have to add any extra postage. It is the value of domestic rate sending. So that's a good thing about buying stamps earlier on with the P, because as time goes on, you can still use them. So that's nice. Now the P+10 one that he was talking about for the Ukraine, it is a charitable one. So when you actually bought the booklet of P+10, you will have paid more because extra 10 cents for that stamp goes to help Ukraine. That is what that means. So it's still valued at 92 cents when you mail it. It doesn't have any extra cost to it, but you have given a charitable donation off to help the Ukraine. That's what that means. And then he says he bought the Thelma Shalafu stamps and they're much bigger. Are they still equal value? So yes, it doesn't matter whether you bought the little Prince Charles or King Charles III stamps or if it has a different shape, different size. As long as it's a P stamp, it's all valued at exactly the same stamp. The only difference you're going to have are the ones that actually say it on the stamp. So the stamps that say $1.30, those are the stamps that are meant to be sent directly to the United States. That's the value of what it costs to mail a stamp to the States right now is, or a postcard to the States is $1.30. And then as I stated before, internationally it's $2.71. So you can buy stamps for that. He says, how many stamps should I use to send a postcard internationally? The value is $2.71. So long as your stamps add up to $2.71, that's how many you send. So if you're going to send, if you just want to send domestic rate stamps, you can send 3 P stamps. That will cover the cost internationally. You're actually paying a little bit more if you do that. When I send postcards, that's tend to be what I end up doing if I don't have enough older denominational stamps back when they had the value on it, whether it's 30 cents or 36, 12. If I do have that and have a big enough postcard, then yeah, I'll fill the card with stamps to let someone be a little happy to have a bunch of stamps. All right. The last thing he said is the cost the same for every country. Doesn't matter the distance from Canada. So you might think that the further you go away from the country, the more expensive it's going to be. It's not the case. We have 3 different ones. So you can mail anywhere in Canada for a domestic rate stamp, a P stamp, or a 92 cents. So whether you're in Moncton and you're mailing to Halifax, which is a short distance, that's going to cost you the same as if you mailed from Moncton to Yellowknife or Vancouver. It's the same. But for me in New Brunswick, if I want to mail to the state of Maine, which is right next door, same amount of distance as to Halifax, it's going to cost me $1.30 to travel to the United States. So anywhere in the United States, Alaska, Hawaii, California, Florida, it's all the same. It's going to be $1.30 to mail. And then internationally, the rest of the world, as long as it's not Canada, the United States, anywhere else in the world, Mexico, Chile, Hong Kong, that doesn't matter where you're going to mail it to, it's going to be $2.71 to mail internationally as of August the 11th, 2023. So if you're watching this video in the future and postage rates have gone up, yeah, sorry about that, but in this present day, that's how much it costs. So those are all my questions. Thank you so much for everyone who has taken the time to send in a question. And if you have a question for me for next week, or maybe some of the answers I answered this week spark new questions for you, leave them in the description of this video in the comment field, and next week I'll answer them for you. Now, I better get back to my holiday. So you guys have a magical week.
What, Polo? You say like, subscribe, share, and tell all your friends?
Who's a good boy? Who's a good boy?